Hi everybody, my name is Mehmet Hussain. I'm the Director of Solution Engineering for EMEA at Bandwidth.
Yeah, hi everyone. Magnus Falk. I'm what's called a CIO advisor at Zoom. Kind of invented the title to be quite nondescript so I could make it up as I went along. But basically I've been a CIO, I've been a CTO, I've had a 30-year career using technology for business advantage. And I've been helping Zoom for the last 3 years grow their business in EMEA, recognize what customers want, help customers understand how Zoom can be transformational for their services, and keep going around that cycle forever.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Severin Yes. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Ring Central.
I'm finally Chris.
Hi, Chris Angus. I am the Vice President of Commercial Sales for 8x8.
Great, thank you very much, guys. For anyone who doesn't know me, I'm Patrick Watson. As I said, I'm a late sub for our Director of Research, Dominic Black. And I'll just let you into a bit of the behind the scenes. We do preparatory panel calls with all of the panelists. And Dom has done that with you guys, and he's agreed a list of questions which I am now throwing out of the window. Not completely. So first of all, I just thought it was worth setting the scene with your sort of definitions of what collaboration is, as opposed to UC, potentially, if there is any difference there, traditional voice. What makes a collaboration solution over a specific communication solution or medium? Does anyone want to take my completely unprompted, unprepared question?
Yeah, I think a collaboration solution allows people to collaborate in any way or style from any place that they want to, with anyone in any organization that they want to, in order to deliver better business benefits, or serve their customers. So it's about people working with people in the way they want to work.
Got you. Chris, I know you wanted to come on.
Yeah, I think I'll echo that. It's we like to use the office environment for collaboration in our most traditional sense. But what we've seen over the last few years, it's about creating a room, a space, an environment where you can work with other people to achieve a common goal, whether that's in person or virtually, to try and replicate that ability to work with each other and exchange ideas, irrespective of your geographical restrictions.
Severine, from the Ring perspective?
Yeah, so I think I would like to say it's one platform. It's going to change, obviously, because we are, we need to collaborate in a very complex environment now. So for me, it's one platform, but also, as you just mentioned already, it's really how to get people to collaborate in, on the go, or in the office, or or just from home. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point in terms of the actual software side of things. It is the difference generally has been that these different mediums have been consolidated into one space, and that's the whole idea behind UI and UX. And anything else from the sort of? Yeah,
I agree with most of if not everything that's already been said, but just because you asked how does it compare to UCaaS, CCaaS, I would argue that UCaaS, CCaaS, whatever, AAS fits under the guise of collaboration, as demonstrated by the definitions that have just been volunteered here. Collaboration is allowing people to work together in a way that makes sense. Sometimes that looks like UCaaS, sometimes that's CCaaS if you're bringing in CX and external customers. Sometimes that's a mix of both or something completely different.
Yeah, all the letters are just subsets of the overall topic.
Exactly that.
Yeah, and I mean, the more acronyms and initialisms, the more confusing we can make the industry, the better. But back to the regular pre-planned questions. And ultimately, this event is for service providers and telcos. I just thought the sort of definitions from each of the players here in terms of collaboration was an interesting starting point, and it's probably good from a sort of premise setting. From the service provider and telco perspective, the organizations, all four of yours, are working with that community in different ways. Where are you adding value or enabling the service provider, telco, to generate value within a collaboration session? Mehmet, I made you come last time, so you can take this one first.
So I'm going to pick we do it in lots and lots of different ways, and I could speak for hours on each individual one, and you'll all be bored half to death. So I'm going to pick the most boring, but the most relevant element where I think we add value and help. And that's in terms of international telecommunications regulations, a horrific subject, but one that is becoming increasingly more relevant to all the providers in this room. We are helping those service providers navigate that regulatory landscape, understand what the requirements are, understand why and where those goalposts are suddenly changing and moving, and sometimes flipping, doing complete 180s in the case of France, for example. So that I would say is where at the moment we're adding a lot of value to service providers.
Yeah, I think from a Zoom perspective, I don't think we did add enough value to service providers and partners and telcos. You know, tradition when we suddenly had our Zoom boom, suddenly everyone was phoning us up and wanting 300,000 seats, you know, in 2 weeks, and you know, our AEs didn't actually make any outbound calls for 6 months. Salespeople not selling, they're just responding to the calls. It was kind of a bit ridiculous. And thankfully we're through that phase, although it's, the growth was great, it was hard to deal with, but Zoom has now realized it's all about channel. It's all about adding value. It's all about working with your partners. It's about, and we're making that transition to provide the things that allow you to make money alongside us servicing the need of your customers. And stuff like call center has been incredibly valuable for people waking up and go, oh yeah, it's not, call center, video call centers is just not about the software. It's about transitioning to reinventing the service that is provided to a customer. And this call center, the video call center really helps make that happen. So what Zoom is doing is kind of pivoting to really welcome on board people who want to work with us to deliver customer solutions. We integrate to 2,000 commercial software partners. We've got hundreds of people putting Zoom apps into Zoom. We allow people to build on our SDKs, but all that leaves huge amounts of room for service providers to help people do that, to realize what they need to do, to add the 3 or 4 integrations that really solve a use case, and advise and deliver. So we think there's huge space, and we want to work with people to do those sorts of things.
And just before I come to you on that, Sabrina, that's a pretty big statement from Zoom in terms of massive consumer-driven, direct enterprise-driven demand, but you're making this strategic shift, and we're seeing more and more effort in the channel and geographic. It's a pretty fundamental shift, that effectively, isn't it?
Well, I think I think what happened to us was as accidental as what happened to everyone else. We were caught up in this amazing boom of business because the world was in a really difficult place, and so we responded effectively to it. But what we realize is that yes, we've got an absolutely fabulous platform and people can reinvent their businesses on it, and it just works and people love it. But when you deliver corporate technology, when you deliver service to a business, it's more than just one platform. It's all, it's a kind of series of things that need to be worked together, that need to be well chosen, that need to be supported with a potentially one-touch view to the customer. Yes, and we'll integrate into your support desks. We'll actually make that work. We'll, tie into your ticketing system. So, it's actually about supporting people to realize that Zoom can transform, can, make a very special difference. But if you think that Zoom is going to be the only thing that any corporate uses, it's madness. Yeah. It's madness.
No, that makes complete sense. Sabrina, from the Ring Central perspective.
Yeah. So from Ring Central perspective, obviously, we work already with many service providers. They are actually our channel, one of our main channel, right? So we'll continue enabling them. I think what is important for Ring Central is actually to make hybrid solution simple. Because every businesses have been rushed to really invest in so many platforms, right? And now they are really facing the complexity of having to deal with them and also the cost of it. So we are really trying to come up with a simple solution to make hybrid work very simple. And as you know, we have one platform that really integrates all. But most of all, we have the phone. We want to continue delivering the value around phone. We've just done a recent survey, and actually 98% of respondents said that the phone remains the main communication channel. which is quite, so phone is not dead, so this is really where we want to continue driving.
I think you must have selected your respondents quite carefully, I think.
No, well, this is just...
Well, we can have the video phone debate later. We've got some data on that as well. So,
so this is something we want to continue, leveraging and enabling our partner with.
And that also, I think, is a key point, and all four of you are fully aware of the one platform piece, but the amount of, and I know because I've looked specifically at it, the amount of integrations from a Ring, an 8x8 bandwidth, Zoom perspective, that is absolutely key. It's all very well having one platform, but to your point, Magnus, if it doesn't integrate easily into the rest of the enterprise stack, what's the value there? So that's a real thing that you focused on, isn't it, from a Ring perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I think we can cover that later on. I think the integration is really important, right?
Have I preempted a question that I haven't read ahead yet in the document?
You should keep the same question.
That bodes well. Chris, from 8x8 side.
So from 8x8, I think we're pretty lucky that we made the decision a long time ago that channel first and service provider first was our go-to-market strategy. So we're a few years down the line in that approach and that development, which means our infrastructure to provide value add to our partners and our service providers is actually quite mature. And that comes right through taking them from a journey. So we have a lot of partners that just want to introduce and dip the toe in the water. Maybe they've come from traditionally selling print or that kind of stuff and don't have a great level of experience in the telco world. Or maybe they are a VMO2 who have lots of options already, but want to have something else to offer their customers, another way to market. So we can provide that additional tool and allow them to have options. And we just go right the way through like a deployment and support accreditation program. So it's a really key thing for our partners to have the option of how they want to go to their customers, what level of service do they want to provide. Do they want to provide all of the implementation, all of the training, all of the support, or do they want to back that off into 8x8? Those options are available. So without labouring the point, I think for us it's about giving them options and confidence that they can transact with us the way they want to and provide a service their customers require depending on how they're comfortable. And most people maybe start here and end up providing the full end-to-end service to their customers. But it means they're not forced into one bucket or the other. And then coupled with that, we have our sales teams and our sales engineering teams pre and post. They can walk in side by side, in the same colour shirt as our service providers, and we have an infinite better chance of securing new business and winning deals when we walk in together, support each other, rather than that kind of there's sometimes an element where you think, well, you're a service provider, you're supposed to sell on your own, but we just want to help win the business. So if that means you want me to turn up on site in a red coloured polo and pretend to work for somebody else, then we'll do our best to support where we can. So for us, it's just about providing options, choice, and a safe space for them to grow into, I guess, the service they want to provide and feel comfortable providing their customers.
Yeah, that alignment support and sales education piece is key. I regularly speak to people in the audience, and one of the biggest things is re-educating sales teams across the entire collaborative stack and the sort of wider IT stack. Sabrina, you mentioned phone calling. I'm going to attempt Slido question. Will it work? No, it won't. So Matt's not in here. Nobody tell Matt that this failed. We'll try one more time. Not going to work. What I was going to ask the audience was whether we think the sort of rise in the use of collaboration solutions is diminishing the traditional market for voice services across call minutes and numbering. And I was assuming the answer was probably yes, partly because of the other communication mediums we use within a collaboration platform. It might be video, it might be instant messaging. From your perspective as sort of leading companies globally in this space, what are the different areas of investment, not just from a technology perspective, but also from a partner go-to-market, whatever those sort of key investment areas might be? Mehmet, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I would double down on education. So as I said, regulations is something that we're helping massively with our partners with, but that means there's a massive amount of education that needs to take place for our sales teams, for our customers, for their consumers, because we're often in a B2B market, mainly because the world is changing. The way that these regulated services are consumed is changing. the way in which they can be procured is changing. The people who can buy them and sell them and resell them, and who can say they're the provider of these, and who can be an aggregator or a sub-aggregator, and who can hide in the background and who can't. All of these paradigms are shifting. So the way that long-standing service providers have been offering international telecommunications for the last 10 or 15 years.
Sorry, Mehmet, that was me, international troubleshooting.
The way that this has been offered is changing because the regulations are changing. That requires a massive amount of education so that the sales process doesn't have to stop. If the sales process stops, then the customers are suddenly at a loss with what they can consume, and they don't know what to do when they're looking forward. So I would say education is massively important.
And that is it's not a quick process, that is it? I mean, development's not quick in terms of, but re-educating and all of that is a potentially, it's a big undertaking.
It takes a long time and it's continuous. So if you suddenly say, right, we've told everybody about what the state of play is in country X, Y, or Z, or region A, B, or C, and you think, great, fine, we can carry on. It might change in 3 or 4 days' time, and it might literally be 3 or 4 days. So the education process has to be continuous. That means you've got to have teams dedicated to being abreast of what the changes are going to be. You have to have teams dedicated to, right, how are we going to break down what this change is, and what's the impact going to be on our customers? What's the impact going to be on their customers? How do we help them navigate it? How do we help them not wet the bed when they find out that this thing is going to completely capitulate the way that they've been doing business in a certain market for 10 years, for example?
Yeah.
Naming no names, France.
Yeah.
So Zoom's investments are kind of orthogonal to each other. So we're investing in our platform hugely, and we're putting artificial intelligence in it to allow conversational intelligence information to fit into your workflows, to give you contact center intelligence with virtual agents, to actually give many more choices of how people interact and how people make their service providers as good as they can be with prompts and extra intelligence. So we're really investing in that in a very heavy way, but we're also incredibly focused on industry verticals because what's happening in education is quite different from what's happening in healthcare, which is quite different from financial services. And these industry verticals are driving the set of integrations and how you do business. So for example, financial services, they're putting their information into the Zoom interaction with their customers so that an authenticated customer can be interacting with a high-end service provider while seeing their account information delivered through a Zoom app that is delivering the information from their account, not a shared screen that might be an accident or something like that. It's all authenticated through, so they're getting exactly the right information. So we're seeing those verticals really drive with partners who know those industries extremely well, and fine-tuning our platform and investing in the things that make that difference for that vertical. So it's kind of platform components plus industry specialties that tend to be driving what we're doing. And of course, that involves the employee, and that involves the customer, and that involves reimagining how business can be done, because what's possible is now totally different.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. And I think some of those investment areas, we speak to so many providers who haven't necessarily picked the particular angle to bet on, and the sort of added value of an area of investment is obviously key. Sabrine, Ring Central, what are the sort of key investment areas? I know contact center has been a big one, but I didn't want to...
So what we call the collaborative contact center, will be a big focus for us, but I think I'm going to say, like you, we are also investing massively in the conversation intelligence. We see this as a big disruptive new technology that will help actually leaders to unlock new insights, that will actually help them to really do more with less resources. And we have already a few AI-powered features that we are already out there. We're just starting. So without giving more, I mean, we are really, really going to focus a little bit more on this. And yeah, as mentioned, we want to make also meetings smarter. Means again leveraging AI massively in the next.
Can I just give an example? Bring this kind of chat to
please.
life, because I think it's all well and good talking about verticals. You can go, well, what do you mean? And so we're working with a healthcare company that has a big footprint in one market, and they are working to deliver service to their new parents. That they give a little device, and that device allows you to put clinical information into the Zoom meeting. You can look in the ears, you can look in the mouth, you look at your infant, you can put stats like oxygenation or heart rate, and so you can have a checkup. You sent home, you got your baby, life's turned upside down, you've got a little thing that allows you then to have a 15-minute checkup with a clinician, putting information into the Zoom meeting to allow the clinician to do a sense check, and say, do I need to see everything okay, or do I actually need to see this infant, or does this infant need to go to hospital? Brilliant for everyone. But that information is then put into an AI machine to give the doctor prompts to say, did you look for this? Did you look for that? This is looking like it was similar to something that was, and suddenly you kind of go, oh, right, this is now completely reinventing what we understood to be, kind of go to the doctor, bundle your baby in a car, wait in the waiting room, get called up, all that type of really nightmarish hassle with someone who did some basic things and then sent you away. But now we've got something that is highly usable, brilliant for the patient, brilliant for the family, and brilliant for the doctor and the clinician. And it's just these sorts of reinventions of how business works. And this isn't just Zoom's platform. This is a sensing device. This is AI that's on the back. This is the customer record. And the service provider that is helping that healthcare is helping to stitch all these things together and help them reinvent how this works. So there is massive value to be had in industry verticals from using the platform capabilities. And I speak for Zoom, and I'm sure you could say it's, RingCentral is doing exactly the same things. But my point is there is great money to be made stitching these things together and working with platforms like Zoom.
Yeah, we're definitely hearing more about customization requirements and vertical requirements. So I think that's a very valid point. That was a good example. 8x8, key investment areas. Obviously, we talk about XCaaS across all of the different aspects of the stack. What areas are getting the big funnel of?
I think the XCaaS piece is super interesting, because when we talk about collaboration, we talk about UC, and we talk about CC. Our XCaaS allows us to join all that together, and it allows you to have people that are sat in different parts of the business. So people that are just basic telephone users, chat users, or people that are using the omni-channel contact center. So our continued investment is in contact center. Contact center is absolutely our primary leading product that we're leading with at the moment. We continue to invest in high availability, completely re-engineering how we release new features with microservices, so little and often reducing that risk factor of big bang upgrades that cause problems and outages all over the world. This is something which we can release regular features on the fly. Also starting off with things like our investing into like a partner advisory board to actually take in information from our partners and what our service providers and what they're seeing, what they're looking for to help drive the future of the application. So that's something that's really, really key for us. We've already started offering some machine learning tech capabilities, conversational AI, which is some of my colleagues up here have already spoken about within the contact center. This is allowing us to provide, just to take that extra step forward. You mentioned before around doing more with less. And you recognize that infrastructure within people, so labor costs are one of the biggest costs to most companies. So we're not here to tell people to, hey, lay half your staff off and use a chatbot instead. But the reality is, when we're looking at EBITDA being the primary factor for growth, we're looking at people being profitable rather than just chasing new bookings, actually being profitable. There is an element where we need to look at those things, and our customers are able to save a ton of money by using the services to streamline how they're leveraging their resources. And 8x8 are investing in those capabilities within the contact center to make it easy for people to make those decisions, make it easy for them to have access to the technologies, and that's continues to be our primary investment.
Yeah, I think we've hit a lot of bases there on the development front. And as you can see, it's diverse across tech and education and all of those different areas. I just wanted to quickly touch on the Slido poll. 62% of you agree, and I made it work, so it's a big win for me that collaboration solutions will reduce demand for telephony services. And I'll come on to that actually in my keynote a bit, but I would agree with that. Ignore the timer, panelists, it's wrong. One final question, and I thought I'd save, and Severine, you were right, I did preempt a question later on. But in terms of working with each other, and I don't think it would be remiss of me to say we're talking about collaboration and we're on a panel and we're not talking about Microsoft. Microsoft aren't here. Working with each other, working alongside Microsoft, Teams has garnered huge traction. What does that look like for each of the organisations? Magnus, you've got Mike poised.
Yeah, we love working with Microsoft because many of our biggest customers have Microsoft in their stack. So we work at a simple level of making sure that our platform is integrated directly into the Teams cloud, or integratable, which gives them operational resilience, because that's quite important to make sure that you can use the service every day of the week, and having to sometimes then gives you that operational resilience. We work with the industry to make sure that your Zoom room can connect to Teams meetings, Google Meet, WebEx, whatever you're going to be partnering with. So we're working very hard to make sure that collaboration is possible cross-platform, including Chat Federation, where we're seeing services like M.io facilitate Chat Federation. We've seen Matrix as a protocol in the Nordics. So we're working to help people work across a range of things. And sometimes that's even interdepartmental in organizations. Quite difficult to persuade some parts of your organization to move away from the treasured thing that they use, but elsewhere you want to use something else. But so you've got to be able to federate between the two. And we work very, very hard to make sure that Zoom plays nicely.
Yeah, and you mentioned Mio, which, for anyone who doesn't know, is a third-party application that will federate chat in between Teams and Zoom and WebEx and various other collaboration applications, and there are other examples of that. I'd be interested in the long run if that federation is ever native between the vendors. Will you ever be able to Microsoft into WebEx? I think that's interesting.
Well, the Nordics are going down this Matrix protocol route, where it actually is a standard, and the open source community have already adopted it, and there's some you inevitably think that something like that will break out, because people do want to have a chat client that they can work with other people on different chats.
But that would be the true spirit of collaboration and Christmas.
There was a regulation actually.
Oh,
like
go. And
there was a regulation recently.
Not just on the Microsoft side, but bandwidth enabling a lot on the voice side.
Well, EU regulation.
Mandating something
hasn't actually landed yet, has it? No.
But the intention is to force federation between all the different chat applications. So is that going to happen? Maybe. Is there intent for it to happen?
Yeah. And I heard if you've got a large enough bag of money, you can influence the legislation one way or another.
Well,
oh no, sorry.
But I mean, there is lots going on within the continent about both openness and bundling as well of certain products. So,
let's get on to bundling, shall we?
Sorry, from a bandwidth side, sort of working with Microsoft and the other players, and so how do you see all of that?
I'm going to do a bit of a shameless plug, obviously. If you were to take a look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant for your CCaaS, UCaaS, look in the top right, the leaders, we're powering everybody who exists in those quadrants, and we have been for quite a long time. So, for example, we've got long-standing relationships with 8x8, Zoom, and RingCentral that have existed well before I worked at Bandwidth, so I can't take any credit for any of those, obviously. What I would say is how we're going to do that more in the future. Have a look at the way that enterprises are consuming these services. So if you take a look at a typical enterprise, they might, for example, have a Genesis contact center, and I'm deliberately picking someone who's not on this stage, and they might have a Teams back office deployment for their in-house communication and collaboration. It's necessary for the service providers that are operating at a level above that to ensure that when enterprises are pursuing the best in breed technology, that they work together in a fully federated way. And that might be that we need to, or other service providers need to, enrich the SIP or data stream or WebRTC stream with additional information that otherwise didn't previously exist. And an example that I can give of that is an integration we have conducted recently with a company called Pindrop in the US, where we're able to embellish our SIP flow with additional information about the verification status of a caller when they call in, so that callers can be pre-authenticated before they get through to a contact center. And you might have seen recently that we released a new agreement in principle for an integration with Amazon to incorporate their Chime SDKs into our bandwidth core network development stuff. What that looks like, don't quite know yet, but the agreement is there. The point is federation and integration is definitely necessary up, down, and across the stack.
Okay. Sabrine?
So,
And you mentioned that we talked about the number of integrators. I tried to steal your thunder, and you knew what was coming. And I was
yeah, so no, I just wanted to, I think, obviously we integrate, well, you actually saw a demo, right? Just before the panel, so how we integrate with Microsoft Teams. So this is one of our, main integration. We are, adding the phone piece to the Microsoft Teams platform. We have also plus 330 other integrations, right? It's very important. Again, I'm coming back to this simplicity and making sure that, you don't have to deal with so many platforms. And I think for us, it's important really to leverage that in the future.
absolutely. And finally, 8x8, not just on the Microsoft side, but you're on the Microsoft accredited contact center list.
Well, of course, right. None of us are going to sit and try and take them on, are we? So you have a choice. You can take it. You can try and fight them, or you can work with them. So yes, of course, we've integrated across the core platform for UC and CC with Microsoft, with the direct routing tools between them, Operator Connect, you name it. I'm sure we can all talk to the same things. But I'll go back to my previous comment before. It's about giving people choice and options. So we are the platform of communication, and you can scale between your chat, you can right up through to voice. But it's a lab, but that's only one part of it. Anyone who comes to any of the guys on the panel here are going to come with an ERP system. They're going to come with Salesforce or Dynamics or something like that. And it's about being able to plug into all of that so that all of their communications are in one place. And then you can give the total user experience across their employee and customer experience, and making sure both of those are considered to be equally beneficial and equally important. And I guess that's where we want to try and make sure that we can sit nicely in the middle and make it as easy as possible for them to tie those two normally disparate teams into one place.
So, from a Zoom perspective, the reason people come to Zoom, even though they've got Microsoft, for a range of things. The first is we do a whole bunch of things that Microsoft don't do. The 100,000 person conference on Zoom events, that's our bread and butter. We can handle that sort of thing. Turn right towards Leadenhall Street.
No.
Thank you. It's extremely
Immediately
useful
leave the
input.
venue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Does anyone else need some?
It's 12:30. That's the direction to the pub, I think.
Yeah, we are getting close.
And then, so, that kind of scale, the ability to, and the quality with customers. So a lot of our customers say, well, we use Microsoft and our internal teams, but for quality, we'll go out and make sure our customers' interactions are over Zoom. And by the way, our customers know already how to use Zoom. So, and then you think, well, why do so many people come to Zoom Phone? Well, because it integrates into Microsoft as well. You can use it as the operational resilient part of your, team stack. So there are reason after reason after reason that people keep coming to Zoom, even though they've got Microsoft. And I think that innovation cycle will keep going because, it's easier to innovate when you are a specialist and you have a platform that's designed to do, one range of things. And when you look at what Zoom's doing now, you'll probably see it on Microsoft's roadmap in 2-3 years. It's which edge do you want to be? Do you want to be leading edge? Do you want to be able to provide the service that transforms your business, or do you want to kind of think about it in a couple of years? And that's where the value is for channel partners, because actually it's the leaders that are innovating and using Zoom's platform.
Chris, did you have a...
Yeah, I think if you take that one stage further, you also need to look at the analytics provided that the likes of 8x8 can offer. So it's great, it means people have a Teams instance, but the in-depth analytics that you can get from using that alongside the XCaaS solution, it gives you so much more that you can measure right the way through the customer journey. And you can't manage what you can't measure, right? So but certainly in the current economic climate, it's super important for everyone to be able to measure every transaction going through the organization. And that's where the value add, that's why you often get, well, why do I need to buy 8x8 when I've already got a Teams solution? And it's that end-to-end analytical train that you can provide to make more insightful business critical decisions that you potentially can't do if you're using Teams by itself.
Yeah, and I didn't, that sort of last question, I didn't want to focus specifically on Microsoft, but I think the general message is that integration and openness is more important across the industry, and generally the leading providers are playing together much more nicely than previously. Thank you to all of my panelists, Mehmet Hussain from Bandwidth, Magnus Falk from Zoom, Serene Hisso from Ring Central, and Chris Angus from 8x8. Round of applause, please, for my panelists. And you are free to leave the stage. You can leave your mics there as well.